Okay, so lesson 3 is rate of change. We're going to look at the relationship between slope and rate. So Robin is going to make taquitos for supper and preheats the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The graph represents the temperature of the oven as it warms up. So what does this point on the graph represent?
Time. The initial, or the oven's initial temperature.
Oven's initial temperature. So the temperature of the oven before she even turns it on is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. What does the 0.5 and 400 represent?
Final point.
Final, how do you mean final point?
It's end objective.
And what is the end objective?
Reach 400 degrees.
Okay, so, and what can you tell me about this 5?
Took 5 minutes to cook.
So it takes 5 minutes to reach 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I wanted to calculate the slope of the line joining these 2 points, how do I calculate slope? Rise over run. Thank you, Teresa. So rise over run, that's the change in my y values. So what was the change in my y values?
50 to 400. So
50 to 400, so 400 minus 50. And what is the change in my x values?
0, 5.
So 350 divided by 5 is how much?
70.
Now what is the unit on the top?
Your temperature.
Which was degrees.
Fahrenheit.
And what is the unit on the bottom? Which is measured in?
Minutes.
So this actually gives me a rate of change. 70 degrees per minute. So what units are used to represent this rate of change? Degrees Fahrenheit per minute. So if I fill in the statement, which you guys I think should have already done, the temperature is doing what?
Decreasing at a rate of 70 Fahrenheit, degrees Fahrenheit, per minute.
Okay, is the temperature increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Increasing. So the temperature is going up by 70 degrees every minute. Okay, second question. Water's leaking out of the bottom of the barrel at a constant rate. After 2 minutes, the water level is 62 centimeters. After 7 minutes, the water is 22 centimeters. So on the grid, we're going to plot the ordered pairs to represent this information. Which variable goes along the bottom? Thank you. Which means the water level goes on my y. What is time measured in? Minutes. And what's the water level measured in?
Centimeters. Jinx.
You want to put these on your graph. You want to know what your measuring tool is because it will help you when you're answering those questions. So 2 minutes and 62 centimeters, so there's 1.2 and 62. And then 7 minutes and 22. That's all I need to show. And then I can show joining the 2 points, which I should be using a ruler or a straight line to join the 2 points. So if I calculate the slope this time, slope is the difference in my y coordinates. So the difference in my y coordinates, 22 minus 62. And the difference in my x coordinates. If I start off with 22, I need to start off with 7. 7 minus 2. And what do I get for an answer? Positive 40 or negative 40?
Negative.
And what is negative 40 divided by 5?
Negative 8.
Negative 8. This again also represents a rate of change. A change in the water level divided by a change in the time. So the units used to represent this rate of change, 40 is a difference in what measurement? Centimeters. And my 5 is in minutes. So the units would be centimeters per minute. So the water level is changing at a rate of negative 8 centimeters per minute. Or I can say that the water level is decreasing at a rate of 8 centimeters per minute. So explain to me why one statement has a negative and the other statement does not.
Because decreasing is already like saying that it's negative.
Exactly. Decreasing implies that it is negative, so I don't need to put the double negative in there. Okay. So in these two investigations, this is what we've discovered. Slope can be used to represent a rate of change. Rate of change can be used to describe a lot of scenarios, and you investigated several of these in physics. Change in distance traveled to a change in time, change in temperature to a change in time, a change in salary to a change in sales, etc. If my slope is positive, that means that it rises from left to right. That means that my rate of change would also be positive. If my slope is negative, which means it falls from left to right, it would be a negative change of rate. So the slope of a line segment that joins 2 points represents the average speed between the 2 points when I'm looking at distance and time. So I can use a distance and time graph to then calculate the speed. So if we look at class example number 1 and Dave. Dave entered his car in a long distance race. He traveled the first 150 kilometers in 2 hours, and after 6 hours he had traveled 650 kilometers. Plot the ordered pairs to represent this information and explain why 0 and 0 is included as an ordered pair in this scenario. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to graph this. Put the information that you have in the question onto the graph.
Oh my goodness, my nose.
This guy's speeding.
Well, he is in a race, so it probably stands to reason that he would be speeding, right? Why is 0 and 0 included in this scenario?
That's how it starts.
That's how he starts. After 0 hours, Dave has traveled 0 kilometers. Does that make sense? Yeah. Calculate Dave's average speed between 2 and 6 hours. So his speed between 2 and 6 hours, how many hours is that?
4.
4. And how much distance did he cover in the 4 hours? How do I figure it out?
650 minus 150.
And what is 650 minus 150?
500.
And what is 500 divided by 4?
135.
So 125 kilometers per hour. Is this a rate of change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're slow.
Okay. Without doing a single calculation, just looking at the graph, how can you tell me, or why could you tell me, that the speed from 0 to 2 hours has to be less than the speed from 2 to 6 hours?
Because the slope is less.
The slope is less. That's it. I don't have to calculate the slope. I just need to state that the slope looks to be less in that period. So, in that period. Okay, last question. The graph shown shows the amount of fuel in Dave's gas tank as a function of the distance traveled during a portion of the race where he drove at constant speed. Calculate the slope of the line. So it's the difference in the y values. So that's 50 minus 40 divided by the difference in the x values. 120 minus, or sorry, 20 minus 120. So that gives me 10 over negative 100, which reduces down to negative 1/10. So, the amount of fuel in the tank is doing what? Increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Decreasing, because I have a negative slope. So the rate of change would be negative 1/10 or negative 0.10 liters per kilometer. Or the amount of fuel is decreasing at a rate of 1/10 liters per kilometer. So if I'm talking about the rate of change, I need the sign. If I'm talking about the amount of fuel, I don't, because the amount of fuel I put in that it's decreasing. Questions are 2, 3, 5, 8, and 9.